get into the new Apple MacBooks that are driven by the new M1 processor. So we talked about AWS, who uses semiconductors to drive their strategy for IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. And you have Apple, who has used semiconductors to put distance between itself and its competitors, or at least it tries to. And in this case, they're trying to do this with the Mac, that up until this point has been a very low market share game, but they want to use this new M1 to go from single digits and beyond. So one thing I want to say about these first reviews is these are typically reviews that are sampled by Apple. And you have to understand how Apple works. Apple is not going to sample any press or any analyst, for that matter, who's not going to give them very positive feedback. And I can say this on the whole, there are exceptions. Most of the press uses Macs, so they're very familiar with it, and they're looking for something different. Or something that's new. I go to some of these press conferences and I don't see a whole lot of Windows devices. Now, with that said, the reviews were overwhelmingly positive. They were positive on performance. They were positive on battery life, and for Mac apps compatibility. What did come out for me were a couple observations. First of all, most of the third-party Mac apps were written for x86 and not written for the M1. And Apple uses Rosetta 2 to be able to make it binary compatible. And it takes an incredible amount of performance to do that. AnandTech showed that it takes there's a 30 to 70% performance penalty that you get using an x86 app, and that was pretty mind-blowing. And while I'm not done with my review, I've only had my system for about 12 hours. I got 4.5 hours of battery life, not 20, using Outlook, which is an x86 app on the new Macs. I saw incompatibility with Logitech cameras. Microsoft Edge blew up and crashed. You can check out my Twitter feed. So while the first, I'll call them manicured reviews came out overwhelmingly positive, I think I'm recommending that everybody gives it a few weeks and see what the non-closely and tightly aligned reviewers with Apple come up with to get the full picture. And I think that's good for consumers.
Yeah, you pretty much are first in line and first to touch. So Pat, we did a whole show on M1, and I have not seen one yet or touched one yet. That is on my list of things to do. It sounds to me like the prognostications that we both had in our pieces to market are immediately coming true. The compatibility issues. Pat, 4.5 hours of battery on you're saying that was your full battery life before the thing died?
4.5 hours, 90% using Outlook, OneNote, and I did 3 VoIP calls. And man, the early reviews said the fans never came on. My fan never came on until I did VoIP calls. Zoom and WebEx, my fan was humming, like the Intel versions likely would, right? Yeah. But this notion and all the reviews that they never heard the fan, I mean, it took me a few hours of testing to find multiple incompatibilities. I do give CNET credit for saying what I knew would happen. Steam is sluggish, right? And Steam is the avenue to get to most all AAA games. One of the surprises, though, that I saw was that a lot of the aficionados, Apple aficionados, really couldn't stand the iOS app, right? The Mac doesn't have a touchscreen. So, trying to use a touchscreen app without a touchscreen, they were not happy with. So, We're
It's
gonna have
funny you say that. It's funny you say that. It's kind of like all the uh, visions I had of trouble in paradise are going to
yeah,
kind of immediately come true. Look, if you're an average consumer doing just sort of average consumer stuff, a little browsing, a little surfing, a little gaming, it'll probably be fine. It'll be fine. Especially if you really love Mac OS. But here's the thing, for what you're paying, the premium that you pay, the toll of owning Apple, it shouldn't be okay. It should be great. And that is the bar. I always say, like, a lot of people are like, oh, you're too critical. Look, the Steve Jobs Apple would never put out a product with incompatibilities out the gate. And if it did, he would be rolling over in his proverbial grave in his life in his era, right, to get it fixed. He was such a perfectionist. It's just a weird difference, Pat, these days. The company keeps putting out products that don't work. I mean, how long is the keyboard issue gone on with the MacBook Pros? I had a problem with it. And look, I'm critical of Apple because when you charge the prices the company charges and you demand the margins, profit, attention, and respect that the company, your product should be great. And that was the reputation it was built on. And I feel like it slipped from. And it needs to return to that. So I could say we're just discerning. We're discriminate customers that want greatness. When you pay $2,500 or $1,600 for a notebook that does not really outfeature a $600 Windows device, or an x86 device, Pat. And so that's my big problem is the company, we knew these things would be a problem. We told them it would be a problem.
yeah.
We were criticized by Apple, and fans, the Macalope decided to write a whole article about me and my opinion of the problems. But if I'm not mistaken, Pat, it sounds like I was right and you were too. And what will Apple do to address it? That's the question.
Yeah, I don't think Apple's going to do anything. I think they were smart by not doing a 16-inch. It's funny. I didn't fully realize how bad it was only having one open USB slot with if you're plugging something in. I don't know how that you call that pro. I think for users who, let's say, might have stuck to an iPad who only use Apple apps, I think it's going to be fine because they did optimize their own applications like Mail, like Calendar, and some of their media apps to run pretty well. And they've had years to do this. If you go outside of Apple's software, I think you're going to be in the short term very disappointed. Workstation applications, if you're using AAA games at all, I don't think that you're going to be very happy. But this is going to be the hallmark gift that just keeps on giving, Daniel. And I can't wait to continue to talk about this.